All I did was show a little kindness in a blizzard. I happened to save a girl who was nearly frozen to death. But I never expected that one act to bring me a world of trouble. That night, she lay in the snow wearing a thin fall school uniform. She kept mumbling that she wanted to find her mother. My heart softened, so I carried her home. But years later, that pitiful homeless girl had transformed into an intensely possessive girl obsessed with her brother. She would not even let me look at another girl while we ate. Even in my phone contacts, besides our parents, she was the only person I could keep. If I accidentally spoke to another woman for a few extra sentences, she would explode on the spot. After dinner, Guochan was about to leave when he happened to spot the girl standing beside the door. She wore only a fall school uniform, hardly warm enough. Curled up on the ground, she leaned against the wall. Snowflakes drifted down one by one, settling on her hair and the hem of her uniform. A thin layer of snow had already formed. Wasn't this the girl he had just helped? Guochan's chest suddenly tightened. He quickly strode toward her, seemingly hearing his footsteps. The girl slowly raised her head and looked at him. Her eyes held a hint of wariness. There really were plenty of bad people out there. She was frightened, but once she recognized the person who had helped her at the restaurant, the caution in her eyes gradually faded. "It's you." When she spoke, her voice was hoarse and trembling. Her breath misted white as she spoke, then slowly vanished into the frigid air. "It's me. Why are you crouching here all alone? Why don't you go home?" In weather like this, there had to be a reason she was not going home. Still, he couldn't stop himself from asking, "Did you run away from home?" But her only response was silence. The girl buried her head between her knees again, faced with Guochan's questions. She clearly did not want to say more. The awkward silence dragged on for quite some time, before she finally whispered pitifully, "I don't have a home." Guochan froze. Without thinking, he repeated her words. That answer was the last thing he expected. "But you still have a mother, right? Tell me where your mother is. I'll take you to her." But what came next was her soft sobbing. Guochan could clearly see her whole body shaking violently. He was about to take off his down jacket to drape it over her. The girl looked up at him. Her eyes shimmered with tears. A bitter smile touched her lips. She murmured, "You're right. I should go find my mother." Guochan blinked in surprise, then let out a breath of relief. He had not expected her to agree so readily. It seemed tonight's problem could be settled quickly. "Then tell me where your mother is. I'll take you there right now." He bent down, bringing his head level with hers. He asked as gently as he could, but the girl still did not answer. She buried her head in her knees again. An even longer silence followed. Even her faint sobs had stopped. He quickly realized something was wrong. A moment ago, she had been shivering uncontrollably. Now, the trembling seemed to have vanished. She sat perfectly still, as if the cold had frozen her solid. His heart sank. He immediately reached out and shook her shoulder, but her entire body simply toppled sideways. She had completely passed out. He quickly took off his down jacket, wrapping her tightly in it, then scooped her up in his arms. He rushed out of the alley. "She's so light." That was his first thought as he picked her up. Then her unnaturally light weight sent a chill through him. Her body temperature was terrifyingly low. His adrenaline was surging. Even without his jacket, he could not feel the cold outside. He knew perfectly well the most urgent thing was getting her to a hospital. Luckily, as he left the alley, a taxi happened to be approaching nearby. Holding her in his arms, he rushed over and flagged it down. Seeing this, the driver quickly got out, helping him settle the girl in the backseat. "Driver, nearest hospital, please hurry," he said anxiously as soon as he got in. The driver did not waste a second. He got back behind the wheel and buckled up, then floored the gas. He sped straight to the nearest hospital. Guochan held the girl tighter in his arms. He pressed her icy little hand against his chest, desperately trying to warm her with his own body heat. But her eyes remained tightly shut. Even her lips had turned purple. She did not respond at all. "Don't scare me, kid. This is no time for this." Guochan could no longer think about why he had gone this far for her. All that mattered was getting this girl out of danger. Soon, the taxi raced up to the nearest people's hospital. Guochan pulled a 10 yuan note from his pocket and tossed it to the driver. He got out, still carrying her, and hurried toward the outpatient building. By then, a fair amount of snow had already accumulated outside the hospital. His boots sank into the snow, making it crunch beneath his feet. It was nearly 1 in the morning. Even a place like a hospital felt cold and deserted at this hour. Only a few people were walking around the outpatient lobby. When they saw Guochan carrying someone in his arms, they quickly stepped aside to clear a path. Emergency room. Where's the emergency room? Guochan kept muttering, clutching the girl tightly. As he looked around, he soon spotted a sign for the emergency department and hurried over. He found the doctor on duty in an office. Doctor, please look at her. I think she's passed out. Please save her first. The doctor had been dozing against the back of his chair. At the shout, he immediately opened his eyes, stood, and came over. He first lifted the girl's eyelids, then shone a small flashlight into her pupils. Her pupil response is a little slow. How long has she been unconscious? Did she fall? Does she have any external injuries? The doctor pressed the emergency call button on his desk. As he turned to question Guochan, less than 15 minutes, I think. I didn't see any injuries. I think the cold did it. Guochan answered after thinking it over. The cold. The doctor gave him a suspicious look, his face full of confusion. Guochan was about to explain everything when two nurses rushed in from outside. They swiftly took the girl from Guochan's arms and laid her on a gurney. Together with the doctor, they wheeled her inside. Guochan hurried after them, until the gurney, the doctor, and the nurses all entered the emergency room and vanished from sight. Soon, the red light above the emergency room came on, meaning another battle had begun inside. A fight to snatch someone from death. His entire body suddenly went slack. On legs stiff with cold, he slowly made his way to a bench outside the emergency room and sat down. It was the first time in his life he had waited outside an emergency room. He just never expected it would be for a stranger. As the adrenaline faded, Guochan suddenly shivered. Only then did he remember that his down jacket had gone into the emergency room with her. Fortunately, the hospital heating was strong. The chill was not biting. His earlier panic had faded by now. All that remained was exhaustion and drowsiness. Could I quietly leave now? Guochan took a deep breath, leaning back in his chair as he asked himself. He understood that some things were best left at that. Going too far would only bring trouble on himself. If he left now, the hospital would likely contact her family for her. If they could not reach them, they could always call the police. If I stay here, what could I even do to help? I'm only a stranger who has barely said 10 sentences to her. With that thought, he slowly stood up and headed outside, planning to slip away quietly. But as he passed the emergency room, his steps still faltered. He remembered how the girl had been bullied at the restaurant, and her red, swollen eyes from crying. In the end, Guochan could not bring himself to leave. He returned to the bench and sat down again, folding his arms across his chest. Even if it's only to get my jacket back, I have to wait. That down jacket cost 800 yuan. It would take me several days of work to earn that much. I'd hate to lose it. He let out a long breath, finally giving himself an excuse. He pulled his phone from his pocket, wanting to kill some time. The moment he lit up the screen, he saw more than 10 missed calls, all from his closest friends. His WeChat group chat was in an uproar too. He had told the group he was riding his bike home, and the guys had asked him to check in once he arrived. But he had never replied, so they had all started calling him frantically. Guochan quickly sent a message to the group, saying he had gone home and taken a bath, without bringing his phone. He was safe and sound. His friends immediately joked and cursed at him. They said that if they still could not reach him, they were about to head out and look for him. By the time the group chat gradually settled down, it was already 1 in the morning. Since the girl had been wheeled into the emergency room, a full hour had passed. Just as he was about to take a nap, the emergency room doors suddenly opened. A nurse came out carrying his down jacket and walked toward him. Guochan quickly rose from the bench and hurried over to her. He was just about to speak, but the nurse asked first, "What's your name?" I'm Guochan." "Oh, Guochan. Then you're the patient's brother, right?" Guochan froze for a moment. To avoid any other misunderstanding, he simply nodded, without explaining. "How is she? Is she all right?" "Luckily, it is nothing serious. She's just a little malnourished, and hunger triggered low blood sugar. That low blood sugar episode is what made her faint. You got her here in time. She is basically out of danger now. But as her brother, I hope you'll pay closer attention, and not let your sister pass out outside again." The nurse said this with mild reproach, as she handed Guochan his jacket. Yes, of course. So it was low blood sugar. Guochan put his jacket on, feeling a little warmer, both inside and out. He knew a little about low blood sugar. It could hit hard, but it was not too serious. She just needs better nutrition and some candy on hand. And she must not go hungry. As for the malnutrition, he had expected that too. She looked frail and thin, with a waxy complexion. She probably had that problem. Yes, and she has a slight fever too. She probably caught a chill. Other than that, we found no other issues. We've put her on infradrip. We'll observe her for a while. If there are no further problems and her fever goes down, she will not need to stay in the hospital. That's great, that's great. Only then did Spatula truly breathe easy. It seemed luck was still on his side. Just then, the emergency room light went out, and a gurney was wheeled out. The girl lay quietly on it, with an infra bag hanging above her. She was covered by a standard white hospital blanket. Some color had returned to her formerly waxen face, but her eyes were still closed. Seemingly noticing Spatula's concern, the nurse beside him added, "She's fine now. She's simply very weak, and needs plenty of rest. We added a mild sleep aid to her for. She should sleep soundly tonight." "All right. Thank you so much for everything." At this point, Spatula finally set his mind at ease. "You're welcome. It's our duty." The nurse took two more things from her pocket and handed them to him. "This is your sister's student ID. We pulled it up in the system while examining her. And this is the hospital bill. Take it to the outpatient desk and pay first. Now, I'm taking your sister to a regular ward. You can find her there shortly." After saying that, she and another nurse pushed the gurney toward the regular ward. Spatula was left standing there alone. Spatula looked down at the bill first, and his vision went dark. One hectic night had cost more than 800 yuan. That was enough to buy the down jacket on his back. Well, great. No matter what, he would have to pay dearly. As Spatula hesitated, wondering whether to cover the bill for her first, he picked up the girl's student ID. In the photo, she had fair skin and delicate features. Her smile was infectious, and she looked especially bright and cheerful. So she was a student in Tingzhou University's second junior division. She actually went to my old school. That makes her my junior. Spatula took a deep breath, slipped the girl's student ID into his pocket, and headed for the payment desk in the outpatient lobby. But the instant he scanned the code to pay, his heart still ached over the money. Fortunately, he quickly pulled himself together. Since he had decided to help her, there was no point regretting it. He hesitated for a moment, but ultimately gave up on going home. He decided to make do at the hospital for the night. He still had 2 days of annual leave left, so he would not have to work tomorrow. More than anything, he was afraid that foolish girl would do what she had last night and run off without saying a word. Once Spatula learned that the girl's name was Mi Cai, and that it overlapped with the name from his memories, he made up his mind. He had to get more involved. He had to ask Mi Cai face to face why she said she had no home, why she had been malnourished for so long, and about those chilling words. The more Spatula thought about it, the more unnerved he became. Something felt wrong, but he did not dare think too deeply about it. He would ask her after she woke tomorrow. Following the direction the nurse had given him, he headed toward the regular ward. The ward door seemed well made. It made no harsh sound when he pushed it open. The room was dimly lit. Only a few bed number signs glowed faintly in the darkness. By the light spilling in from the hallway, he spotted at once the girl lying in the bed nearest the door. She was fast asleep, unresponsive to his movements. There were 3 beds in the room. The other 2 were empty, with no other patients inside. Spatula thought his luck was not bad. At least he had a bed to lie on. Much better than curling up in a hallway chair. He closed the door and sat on the bed beside Mi Cai's. After repeatedly making sure she was stable, he took off his shoes and flopped comfortably onto the bed. The moment his body relaxed, a crushing wave of exhaustion hit him. At last, Spatula could not hold on any longer. He picked up his phone and glanced at it. After confirming he had missed no calls or messages, he drifted off to sleep. When he woke up, it was already past 9 in the morning. The ward curtains had not been drawn, and harsh sunlight streamed through the glass, shining straight onto his face. That was a great sleep. He raised his arms over his head and stretched hard. Then he rubbed his eyes and sat up. The next second, his scalp prickled. He saw that the bed to his left was now empty. The blanket had been thrown back. Clearly, she had woken up and left. Spatula lightly bit his tongue, thinking he might be dreaming. The sharp pain told him it was all real. Panic seized Spatula, and he nearly lost it. He hurriedly slipped on his shoes, just about to get up and look for her, when suddenly, the ward door opened. The nurse from last night led Mi Cai inside. The nurse held Mi Cai's bag high in one hand and supported her arm with the other. Mi Cai took tiny steps, slowly shuffling forward with the nurse's help. Little Mi Cai, your brother is awake. He must have been exhausted to sleep this late. When he carried you to the hospital last night, it was already very late. You should thank him properly. Mi Cai said nothing, only nodding softly. Then she saw Spatula sitting at the edge of the bed. Spatula hurriedly putting on his shoes, her bright eyes fixed on him, her long lashes fluttering twice. Who knew what she was thinking? At the sight of her, half of Spatula's worry finally eased. So she had only gone to the bathroom. He had worried for nothing. Then again, it made sense. She had received so many for bags last night, and he had slept until now. Of course she would need to go first thing in the morning. I will leave you two alone, then. Little Mi Cai, I will come back around 1 this afternoon to check your temperature again. Listen to your brother. Be good and rest. Once your fever breaks, you can be discharged. The nurse carefully helped her back into bed, then hung the fur bag back on the hook. She turned and left. The moment the door closed, the room fell silent. Even the atmosphere turned awkward. Spatula had so much he wanted to say, yet now he did not know where to begin. Mi Cai kept her head lowered and said nothing. She stared at the needle in the back of her hand, as though she did not dare speak. Spatula thought for a moment, and decided to break the ice. Well. Just as he opened his mouth to say something, the girl made the same sound at the same time. They had spoken in unison again. The room fell silent once more. Spatula lifted a hand and rubbed his temple helplessly. The girl sat there, awkwardly picking at the corner of her blanket. A blush crept across her cheeks. Seeing the little girl still would not speak, Spatula spoke again. How are you feeling now? Does anything hurt? No, just a little dizzy, probably from sleeping too long, and the fever. She still did not dare look up. Hearing the answer he wanted, Spatula sighed in relief. When I saw you faint last night, you really scared me. I flagged down a car and brought you straight to the hospital. Luckily, it is only low blood sugar and a mild cold. It is nothing serious. So, do not worry. I pay the exam and hospital bills up front. Just rest here and get your drip. Do not feel burdened by it. She had roughly guessed that this older boy had saved her. Still, she was surprised. She could not understand it. Even now, she did not know his name. To him, she was only a stranger. Why would he help her so much? Why are you helping me like this? Mi Cai's eyes quietly reddened. Her voice was soft, trembling slightly with a choke sob. That is just the kind of person I am. Once I saw you, I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen you and walk away. It was snowing so heavily outside last night. If I had left you there, you might have frozen outside. I did not want to look back on this someday and regret standing by when I could have helped. That was reason enough to step in. In that moment, you felt like a little sister to me. If something had really happened to you, the guilt would have crushed me. Spatula stopped there, because he clearly saw. Two clear trails of tears slipped down Mi Cai's face. They rolled down her cheeks and fell onto the blanket. He fumbled for a moment. Then Spatula sat beside her bed and handed her a tissue from his pocket. Spatula, thank you so much for saving me. Mi Cai raised her head and stared blankly at Spatula. Tears shimmered in her eyes. Last night, I truly wanted to go find my mom. If you had not saved me, I might already be with her. Spatula's chest tightened. It felt as if something exploded in his mind. Before then, you must have been holding it all in, right? Mi Cai fought back the rising tears, took the tissue, and wiped away her last tears. She forced a difficult smile at Spatula. But do not worry. You saved me. From now on, I'll live well. I will never do anything foolish again. Though Spatula's heart ached for her, seeing how sensible she was, warmed his heart. Spatula hesitated for a moment, then reached out and gently ruffled the little girl's hair. He had wanted to say, your mom would be comforted to see you so strong, but he feared mentioning her mother would hurt her again. After careful thought, Spatula said something that even surprised himself. Little Mi Cai, I hope the next time you cry, it will be from happiness. Mi Cai froze. Her bright eyes stared straight at him, full of disbelief. Just then, the clouds covering the sun slowly drifted away beyond the window. Warm sunlight flooded the hospital room. Through the gaps between Spatula's fingers pressed to her forehead, it shone into her heart as well. It was as if the sky in her heart had cleared. Spatula, I will. Mi Cai nodded softly. Then she smiled at him again. This time, her smile was not forced at all. Her complexion no longer seemed so sallow. Some of its fair color had returned. Even her smile was especially radiant, so pure and clear, like a little angel fallen to earth, just like the photo on her student ID. Spatula found himself briefly lost in thought. So this child was truly beautiful when she smiled. So why did you say last night that you had no home? What I mean is, do you have any other family? Faced with Spatula's question, she nodded first, then shook her head. A shadow weighed on her brow, as if she had something painful she could not say. But in the end, she chose to speak. When I was very young, my father abandoned us. As far as I remember, I barely have any memories of him. After that, Mom raised me alone. It was hard at first, but our life still had warmth. Then, when I was 14, Mom became seriously ill. She could no longer work as she had before. To support our household, I was such a burden, unable to help Mom at all. As she spoke, she clenched her little fist. Her eyes filled with tears, but she lifted her head, refusing to let them fall. She took a deep breath and continued. Mom needed money for treatment, so she sold our old house and rented a place with me in Penghu Alley on the west side of town. But the old house did not sell for much. It barely kept Mom in treatment for another 3 years. Later, her illness worsened. She could not keep working anymore. Sometimes we could not pay the rent. That landlady would even come by to bully Mom and me. She raised a hand and wiped at her eyes, trying hard not to cry aloud. Guochan was shaken. He had never imagined this little girl had grown up in such hardship. Then, one night a week ago, Mom passed away. She left me forever. I remember that night. Mom lay in bed and said so many things to me. She said she was useless, that she was sorry, because she could not watch me grow up, or keep moving forward with me. As Mi Cai said this, she could no longer hold back her tears. Scalding tears rolled down her cheeks, dropping one by one onto the bedsheet. I am sorry, Brother Guochan. I just promised you I would not cry so easily anymore. Hearing this, Guochan's nose stung, and his vision blurred slightly. He shifted closer and leaned nearer to her. He gently patted her back, trying to soothe her. It is okay. It is okay. If you need to cry, then cry. You will feel better once you let it out. Hearing Guochan say that, she stopped forcing herself to endure. She burst into tears. Her head hung low, her whole body trembling. All the grief in her heart poured out at once. But I do not blame Mom at all. I am the useless one. It is my fault. I held Mom back. I made her suffer so much. And then she died. This is all my fault. Guochan wanted to offer more comfort and opened his mouth. But in the end, no words came out. Some wounds really do need tears to wash them away. After quite a while, her sobbing gradually subsided. She raised a hand and wiped away her tears, then looked at Guochan with red-rimmed eyes. She was still sniffling softly. I am sorry, Brother Guochan. I should not have said all that. I just could not hold it in this time. I really will not cry so easily again. I will try to be strong. Seeing how stubborn the little girl was, Guochan felt helpless. He reached out again and ruffled her little head. Silly girl, what I said earlier was because I want you to be happy from now on, not because I want you never to cry again. She looked up at him, her eyes still red. Just then, the ward door opened. A nurse came in again, carrying a bottle of saline. Seeing the little girl who had been crying so hard moments ago, now chatting so warmly with Guochan, she could not help smiling. You two siblings are so close. At the nurse's words, they both froze. Yet, as if by mutual understanding, they both lowered their heads and said nothing. The atmosphere turned a little awkward. Seeing their reaction, the nurse was puzzled, but did not press them. She walked to Mi Cai's bedside, glanced at the nearly empty fur bag, and swiftly replaced it with a new one. Then she pressed the back of her hand to Mi Cai's forehead, as if sensing that her fever had not gone down. She frowned slightly. She then took out an electronic thermometer and held it to Mi Cai's forehead to take her temperature. Why has your fever gone up instead? Little Mi Cai was doing fine this morning. Did your brother not let you rest properly? The thermometer read 38 degrees Celsius. As the nurse questioned Mi Cai, she turned her gaze toward Guochan beside her. That look seemed to blame him for not caring for her properly. I think it is probably because she cried this morning and worked up a sweat. Under the nurse's questioning, Guochan finally remembered that she still had a fever, and like an idiot, he had let her cry for so long. Guilt immediately filled his heart. At that thought, he awkwardly rubbed his hands together. It is okay, nurse. I feel much better now. This has nothing to do with Brother Guochan. My body is just weak. Please do not blame him. The little girl hurried to defend Guochan, taking all the blame herself. The nurse bent down and lightly brushed the tip of her little nose. All right, but your fever has not broken yet. You cannot leave the hospital today. You will need another day on the floor, so the illness does not flare up again. Then she turned to Guochan. You need to take good care of Mi Cai. She is already malnourished and physically weak. Now she is sick as well. Do not let her emotions get stirred up again. She should stay in bed when she needs to, and move as little as possible. Okay, I understand. Guochan nodded quickly. He did not dare take the medical staff's instructions lightly in the slightest. He committed every word to memory. After the nurse finished speaking, she carried out the empty IV bag and left. Only the two of them remained in the ward again. Mi Cai, lie down and get some rest. This is all my fault. I will not ask you about those things anymore today. As Guochan spoke, he helped her lie back down slowly and tucked her blanket around her. It is not your fault at all. Brother Guochan, I am really fine. Hearing Guochan blame himself, she immediately grew anxious. After saying those things, I actually feel much lighter. At the little girl's attempt to reassure him, Guochan could only smile wryly. Inside that tiny body, she seemed to carry far too much maturity. All right, wait here for me. I will get us something to eat. Guochan glanced at his phone. Without realizing it, it was already 11 in the morning. Neither of them had even eaten breakfast, and it was nearly lunchtime. Mi Cai nodded softly. She curled up beneath the covers, with only half her head showing. She looked so well-behaved and adorable, since it was mealtime, and the girl was still weak. Guochan decided to bring her a serving of lean pork congee. He ordered himself a bowl of hand-pulled noodles, found an empty seat, and ate first. When he returned to the ward, he found the girl staring blankly at the ceiling. The moment she saw him enter, a smile bloomed across her face. She instinctively pushed herself up, trying to sit. When Guochan saw this, he hurried over and gently held her down. Hey, do not move. I will feed you. Hearing that he wanted to feed her, the girl froze for a moment. In her memory, apart from her mother, almost no one had ever fed her. So, when Guochan scooped up some pork congee and brought the spoon to her lips, she absent-mindedly opened her little mouth. The congee is a little salty, but that salty taste is actually quite good. Wait, that is not right. How can I let Brother Guochan feed me? By the third spoonful, she finally could not sit still any longer. Brother Guochan, I only have a little fever. It is not like I cannot move. This hand still works. Just put the congee down, and I can eat it slowly myself. But he only pinched her little cheek, and did not do as she asked. The nurse had made it clear. Do not move if you do not have to. Just sit still, and do not try anything reckless. Faced with his stubborn insistence, the little girl could not argue with him. So, spoonful by spoonful, she let him continue feeding her. Her face only grew redder. Whether it was from the fever or embarrassment, she did not know. Though she still had a fever, her appetite was quite good. She soon finished the whole bowl of congee. When she finished, she let out a tiny burp. She quickly covered her mouth in embarrassment. The girl retreated beneath the covers, leaving only half her little head outside. Her big, doe-like eyes quietly watched him. She became lost in thought as she looked at him. After that bowl of congee, her stomach felt wonderfully warm, and warmth spread into her heart as well. So this was what it felt like to be cared for. The feeling was unfamiliar, but she truly liked it. But when she thought of someone unrelated to her going to so much trouble, was that really appropriate? She enjoyed it, but she had always hated burdening others. She could not quite get past that inner hurdle. Her heart grew uncertain. She wanted him to stay, but also wanted to tell him to leave. After a long while, she finally made up her mind. Brother Guochan, what is it? Guochan looked up. I have already kept you here too long. How about you go home? I can take care of myself here. Her voice was soft. She did not dare look Guochan in the eye. It seemed to take all her courage to say it. I am fine. I am still on annual leave. I do not have to work anyway. Besides, you still have a fever. No matter what, I am not leaving until your fever breaks. Guochan turned his attention back to his phone. He did not agree to her request. Leaving the girl alone in the hospital was something he simply could not bear. Besides, he still did not understand what her situation really was, or whether she even had somewhere to stay. but seeing that she was still feverish, he could not press her for answers. He did not want to upset her again and make her fever keep coming back. All right. Seeing how resolute he was, the girl stopped trying to persuade him. She tucked her head back beneath the covers, but her heart felt even warmer. Later, the nurse came by again. She removed Mi Cai's needle and told her she would need another IV that night. When she heard she would need another needle that night, her little brows furrowed and her face fell. The nurse smiled and ruffled her hair again. After the nurse left, a long time passed. Guochan did not hear her say another word. He looked up to check on her. The little thing lay quietly in bed, her breathing deep and steady. She had fallen asleep. Afternoon sunlight lazily streamed inside, casting a warm halo beside her pillow. Her lashes fluttered softly now and then, and a faint smile lingered on her lips. Who knew what lovely dreams she was having? Guochan yawned too. He walked to the window, then tiptoed over and drew the curtains, then lay back on the bed in the middle. He planned to nap for a while too. That evening, Guochan went to the cafeteria again and brought her another serving of lean pork congee. But this time, the little girl refused to let him feed her again. Brother Guochan, both my hands can move now. Please, really do not feed me anymore. She pouted, waving her freely moving hands as she spoke. The man did not insist any further. He handed her the container and watched her eat, bite by bite, afraid she would not eat enough. Guochan had brought her extra this time. By the end, the girl was so stuffed her eyes nearly rolled back. Hey, Mi Cai, if you cannot finish, save the rest. Looking at her round little belly, he kindly tried to persuade her. No, my mother told me never to leave food unfinished. The sky gradually darkened. Guochan began talking with her about school. From her, he learned that the girl was already an adult. She attended Tingzhou University, a second-year student in Tingzhou University's 3rd junior division. Though her life was difficult, her grades were good. But what angered Guochan was that she was the one in her class whom cruel classmates bullied and mocked. Her mother was busy with work and chronically ill, so she rarely attended parent-teacher meetings. As for her father, he had been absent in all but name since she was little, and she was already quiet and withdrawn at school, looking gentle and reserved. She was also thin and small. As a result, she was not well liked in class. During breaks, troublemaking classmates often picked on her. They even called her a child nobody wanted. Guochan knew all too well that nearly every class had its scapegoat, and in her class, she was the unlucky one. Perhaps she did not want him worrying about her. When she spoke of it, she only mentioned it in passing, but Guochan could still imagine how much humiliation she endured at school every day. She seemed to sense Guochan's feelings and quickly tried to comfort him. It is okay, Brother Guochan. I never take those things to heart. I got used to it long ago. Now I can completely ignore them. They cannot hurt me. Guochan nodded. He was relieved by how sensible she was. In return, he told her about his own college days and amusing things that happened at work after graduation. She listened intently beside him, her eyes wide. It was clear that the girl still longed for that kind of life. Late that night, she curled up in her hospital bed, tossing and turning. She could not quite sleep. What is wrong, Mi Cai? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Guochan sensed something was wrong and grew worried. Brother Guochan, I am a little cold. The girl's voice trembled slightly. Guochan hurried out of bed and touched her forehead with the back of his hand. It was still a little hot. It seemed the fever was making her feel chilled. During the day, the sun was high and the room was warm, so she did not notice it. But at night, even with the hospital heating turned up, the dropping temperature was hard to fight. Naturally, Guochan was unaffected since he was not sick. But for her, burning with fever, it was becoming unbearable. Wait here. I will find you a hot water bottle. The inpatient ward was deserted at night. There was hardly anyone in the corridor. Following the signs, he found the duty room on that floor. Several nurses were still on duty inside. Guochan explained what he needed. One nurse stood and nodded. They were well practiced at this sort of thing. Before long, they prepared one for Guochan, a saline bottle filled with boiling water. It was hot enough to scald his hand. Then she took a clean towel and wrapped the bottle tightly in it. That way, they had a makeshift hot water bottle. Guochan tried it in his hands and found it just right, so he asked for another. The nurse rolled her eyes at him, but swiftly made him one more. Soon after, Guochan returned to the room carrying 2 hot water bottles. The moment he entered, A smile bloomed across Mi Cai's little face. Where are you coldest? Guochan asked, turning the two hot water bottles in his hands. Mostly my feet feel a little cold. My body too, a little. Mi Cai carefully considered it before answering softly. Guochan was glad he had asked for an extra one. First, he placed one hot water bottle against her chest for her to hold. He put the other by her feet. As he positioned it, Guochan accidentally grabbed her little foot. Her body stiffened. She gave a soft cry, quickly drawing her legs up. A flush rose to her cheeks. Sorry. Guochan scratched his head awkwardly and hurriedly apologized. It is all right, Brother Guochan. Her voice drifted gently from beneath the covers, without a trace of blame. Do you feel better now? Are you still cold? As Guochan climbed back into his own bed, he asked to make sure. Much better. I am not cold anymore. I feel nice and warm now. Hearing that her voice no longer trembled, Guochan finally relaxed. He settled into a more comfortable position. After a while, she still seemed unable to sleep peacefully. She spoke again in the darkness, her voice faintly choked with emotion. Thank you so much for taking such good care of me. Other than my mom, no one has ever been this kind to me. Guochan froze. His heart stirred. He had not expected this was why the girl could not sleep. He did not want her to stay sad. So he joked, stop praising me. If you keep it up, my ego will get huge. And if it gets too huge, I will float right up into the sky. Sure enough, her soft giggle drifted through the air. Late at night, the hospital room was silent. There was almost no sound from outside. As the night deepened, Guochan could no longer resist his drowsiness and slowly fell asleep. Mi Cai turned onto her side, facing his bed. She lay there sideways, her dark eyes unblinking in the darkness. As she watched the sleeping Guochan, she stared, lost in thought. Who knew what was on her mind? At last, she clenched her little fist, as if she had made a decision. Brother Guochan, I am sorry. You have been so kind to me, but I cannot hold you back any longer. Her soft, choked sobs slowly faded into the night. In the morning, Guochan woke from his sleep. Mi Cai was still lying in the next bed with her eyes closed. He stretched and climbed out of bed. The first thing he did was check her forehead with the back of his hand. To his relief, the girl's temperature had finally returned to normal. At this rate, she should be able to leave the hospital today. With that thought, he went out to buy her breakfast. With her fever gone, Mi Cai was clearly much happier. She took the chopsticks and sat at the edge of the bed, eating the breakfast he had just bought. While swinging her legs, she looked utterly content. Before long, she had finished more than half the steamed dumplings in the bag. She suddenly seemed to remember something. She smiled sheepishly. Then she offered Guochan the remaining steamed dumplings. Sorry, Brother Guochan, you should eat. Seeing how thoughtful she was, Guochan gently tapped the tip of her little nose. That was his answer. He finished all the rest. Then they each finished a cup of soy milk. Without a word, they both lay back on their beds, rubbing their bellies as they rested. When the nurse came in, she saw their synchronized little gesture and could not help laughing. She took Mi Cai's little hand and deftly removed her needle. Then she took out an electronic thermometer and checked her forehead temperature again. Has your fever gone down today? Congratulations, little Mi Cai. You can be discharged now. Make sure you eat properly from now on. Do not starve yourself sick again. Keep some candy in your pocket, in case your low blood sugar acts up again. Okay, I will remember. The girl nodded obediently. What a good girl. The nurse smiled. She bent down and gently ruffled her hair. Then she left with the empty saline bottle. Only the two of them remained in the room. For a moment, it felt quiet. But soon, the girl looked up and spoke first. Brother Guochan, thank you so much for staying with me this whole time. I must have held you up a lot, right? You should go home. I am better now, and I need to go back too. You do not have to keep thanking me. It was nothing. Still, Guochan was a little puzzled. Did you not say you had no home that night? Where are you going back to? It is like this. I did not explain it clearly yesterday. After Mom passed away, my uncle came over. He handled Mom's funeral arrangements. He told me to sort out the house and our things over the next few days, then go live at his house. She anxiously rubbed her little hands together, her gaze darting away, as she tried to explain it to Guochan. I see. Guochan nodded slightly, but something felt off to him. If she still had family and a place to live, why would she go collect bottles by a barbecue stand in the middle of the night? He was about to press her for answers, but the girl continued. When I said I had no home that night, I only said it out of anger. After my uncle arrived, he said so many disrespectful things about Mom. I just could not stomach it. So I ran away from home in anger and collected bottles. But I have thought it through now. I will apologize to my uncle when I go back. I have been gone so long. He must be worried about me too. So I need to get back quickly. It is all my fault. I made you worry so much. Brother Guochan, I will be good from now on. I will not run off again. And I will not do anything foolish. So that was it. Guochan nodded. He was relieved by her maturity. At least those 2 days of watching over her had not been for nothing. Then I will be going. Brother Guochan. The girl put on her shoes and rose from the bed. She gave him a gentle smile. Perhaps her body had not fully recovered yet. She swayed and nearly fell. Guochan hurried over to steady her. His voice was full of concern. How can I leave you like this? Let me take you home. Penghu Alley is at least 3 or 4 kilometers from here. The sky may have cleared, but it is still freezing outside. I cannot let you walk back alone in your school uniform. I would never be at ease. There is really no need. Brother Guochan, I have just been lying down too long. I was unsteady when I stood up. See, I am perfectly fine now. As she spoke, she spun in a small circle, trying to prove she was fine. Then give me your uncle's number. I will call him and have him pick you up. Guochan pulled out his phone as he spoke, ready to dial. No, the girl's voice suddenly rose. It startled Guochan. She realized she had overreacted to, and quickly added, My uncle is a strange man, and he says awful things. Please do not call him, Brother Guochan. And I do not remember his number either. Guochan gave her a suspicious look. How about this? I will get a taxi and take you to the alley entrance. Is that all right? It is still cold outside. You could catch another chill walking back like this. Seeing that he insisted on taking her, the girl could not refuse any longer. She could only nod softly. Soon, they reached the hospital entrance. The moment she stepped outside, she shivered. She quickly hugged herself tight. But at her firm refusal, Guochan ultimately did not drape his down jacket over her again. They walked one behind the other toward the roadside. Guochan flagged down a taxi and helped her into it. Driver, Penghu Alley. The driver frowned slightly, then stepped on the gas, heading for Penghu Alley, a place notorious across the city for being filthy, chaotic, and run down. He did not think much of that place. He had once driven passengers there, only for them to run off without paying. By the way, Brother Guochan, the girl reached out her little hand and tugged at his sleeve. She lowered her voice and said, You must have spent a lot on my hospital stay this time. Give me your phone number. I will find a way to repay you someday. Do not say something so silly. Guochan gently patted the hand clutching his sleeve. Your biggest job is to focus on your studies. When you go back, listen to your uncle too. Do not run off again. And do not go out collecting junk to pay medical bills. Just pretend this never happened. I have money. You do not need to repay me. However, Mi Cai was unexpectedly stubborn about this. No matter what he said, she insisted Guochan leave his number, thinking that the little girl might really need his help someday. Guochan thought it over and gave her his number. Mi Cai pulled from inside her school uniform a ballpoint pen. She carefully wrote his number on a corner of her uniform's hem. The sight made Guochan's nose sting. He could not help thinking she would have to live under someone else's roof from now on. Life would probably be hard for her. A few minutes later, the taxi stopped at the entrance to Penghu Alley. Guochan had been here a few times. The place troubled him every time. Let me walk you to your door. Guochan started to get out as he spoke, but Mi Cai grabbed him. No, Brother Guochan, my home is just ahead. I can walk there myself. Please, go back now. I really do not want to take up any more of your time. Besides, if my uncle sees you, he will say I am causing you trouble. I will call you once I get home. Seeing how determined she was, Guochan could only nod. He accepted her arrangement. Mi Cai pushed open the door and hopped out. She breathed little clouds into the cold air, then smiled and waved goodbye. Her bright black eyes seemed to glow. Goodbye, Brother Guochan. Guochan looked up at the little girl standing in the snow, bathed in sunlight. She shone like a little fairy fallen to earth. Though he hated to leave her, he reined in his feelings and smiled. Goodbye. The taxi pulled away again. Her figure quickly faded beyond the window, but her clear, delicate voice still echoed in Guochan's ears. Brother Guochan, I will be strong from now on. I promise you. The next time I cry, it will be tears of happiness. You must be happy too. Brother Guochan, I hope that the next time I see you, the sky will be clear. Guochan smiled helplessly in the back seat, though his eyes had already grown damp. That little girl really knew how to tug at his heartstrings. She would probably end up in the humanities someday, he thought wryly. But soon, he could not smile anymore. Instead, he felt like crying. Deep down, he knew he might never see her again in this life. They belonged to two different worlds. In the end, they would head in separate directions, like two shooting stars passing each other. They might draw close for one brief instant, but time would only carry them farther apart. His vision blurred with tears. Only then did Guochan realize that this girl he had known for only 2 days had already claimed a place in his heart. She was like a flower blooming from filthy mud, growing amid harsh circumstances, yet still pure and kind, not a bit tainted by the filth around her. He searched through his clothes, looking for tissues to wipe his eyes, but his fingers touched a small, hard object. It was Mi Cai's student ID. He had actually forgotten to return it to her. Guochan stared blankly at the student ID in his hand. Then something suddenly occurred to him. Wait, if she had only run away from home, why had her uncle not reported her missing? I stayed with her in the hospital for nearly 2 days. By now, he should have found her. Unless from the beginning, she had never really run away from home at all. Ever since they were at the hospital, Guochan had felt that something was off. Why, when I insisted on taking her home, had she tried so hard to stop me? Besides, her mother had struggled so much to raise her. Even when she became gravely ill, her uncle had never shown his face. That meant her mother had never been welcome in her own family. They may have even cut ties long ago. Now that her mother was gone, her uncle suddenly appeared to help. Did that make any sense? It was more likely that this so-called uncle never existed. With no family and no money for rent, she was probably the one with nowhere to go. That girl clearly does not know how to lie. Yet I believed her like an idiot. Driver, stop the car. Guochan practically shouted it. The driver jumped in fright. He stared at Guochan in utter confusion, with no idea what was happening. Sorry, sir. Please turn around and go back to Penghu Alley. Guochan was breathing heavily. The taxi carrying Guochan turned around and drove away. It gradually vanished from Mi Cai's sight. Only then did she finally relax. Brother Guochan, you are the kindest person I have ever met. You really are different from everyone else. But I do not want to burden you anymore. You deserve a life of your own. Mi Cai leaned against the wall, overwhelmed by a deep sense of helplessness. But that daze lasted only a moment. She quickly pulled herself together. She had just promised Brother Guochan that she would be strong. She got to her feet and headed deeper into the alley. Before going to that place, she still had things to do. First, she had to pack up what was left at home and take whatever she could carry, especially the keepsake her mother had left her. Second, she wanted to see her mother one last time. No matter what, she had to find out where her mother was buried. She arrived beneath an old apartment building and hesitated. In the end, she gathered her courage and went inside. She walked cautiously all the way, afraid of running into that hateful landlady. Soon, she reached her own door. She took out her key and tried the lock. The key slid into the lock with a crisp click. The door opened at once. Thankfully, the lock was not broken, but the sight inside left her frozen. The entire apartment had been turned upside down. She rushed into the bedroom as if she had lost her soul, and frantically rifled through the bedside table. Her mother's keepsake should have been there. The gold ring. The day she left to find work, she had meant to wear it, but forgot in the rush. Now, it was clearly gone. The girl clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. Of course, she knew who had done it. It had to be that hateful landlady. This time, she refused to back down. Even if she could not get her mother's keepsake back, she would at least find out where her mother was buried. She went straight to the end of the second-floor corridor. There was an apartment there, its door wide open. Inside stood a heavily made-up middle-aged woman, with sharp, mean features. She was busy stoking the fire and cooking. Apparently noticing movement at the door, the woman cast a sidelong glance over and spotted Mi Cai standing there. Well, look who it is. You little bastard. You sure ran off proudly that night. I could not stop you, no matter how I tried. So, why have you come crawling back today? Had enough suffering out there? Did you decide the man I picked out for you is not so bad after all? Mi Cai's expression turned icy. Ignoring her sarcastic taunts, she simply held out her hand. Give me back what my mother left me. What are you talking about? The middle-aged woman sneered. She raised her right hand. A glittering gold ring gleamed on her middle finger. It was her mother's keepsake. What do you mean? Something your mother left you. That is simply the rent you and your mother owed me. Hearing such shameless words, Mi Cai felt her chest tighten. But we only owed you a few hundred in rent. What gives you the right? Why can you not even spare my mother's keepsake? Do not treat your worthless junk like treasure. How much could it possibly be worth? The woman's voice dripped with contempt. You little bitch. Do not you dare lie through your teeth. Do not forget, I was the one who dealt with your mother's corpse. Do not talk about my mother like that. Mi Cai shook all over with rage, even her voice trembling. I will say whatever I want. This gold ring barely covers the cost of dealing with your mother's body. You are right. I do despise your dead mother. She died in my apartment, and now I cannot rent that room out. I have not even settled that score with you yet. If you ask me, your mother was nothing but bad luck. She should have found some place where no one would see her, and quietly died outside. Liu Ruyan. Mi Cai clenched her fists tight. Her nails dug into her flesh, drawing blood. She gritted her teeth in hatred. You can curse me or hit me, but you will not insult my mother. My mouth is mine, and I will say whatever I want. If I had not rented you that place so cheaply, you and your mother would have been sleeping on the streets. You little bitch. How dare you call me by my name? I have no idea how that unlucky mother of yours raised such a thing as you. I will tear that filthy mouth apart. As Liu Ruyan spoke, she lunged forward, seizing Mi Cai by the arm. Her other hand clawed for Mi Cai's mouth. Mi Cai was enraged too. She opened her mouth and bit hard into the back of Liu Ruyan's hand. The girl had completely lost control. Liu Ruyan let out a shriek of pain. Then she shoved hard, sending Mi Cai crashing to the floor. Mi Cai was already malnourished and painfully thin. Against such a brutish woman, she had no chance to fight back. She was quickly pinned down. Liu Ruyan grabbed her hair and dragged her inside, pinning her beneath her. She raised her hand and slapped her hard. You little bitch. You dare bite me. If Huang the fool across the way had not taken a liking to you, I would have made sure today to leave a few more scars on you. You took his money, did you not? Mi Cai stared coldly at Liu Ruyan, even with blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. Her voice did not soften. On her left cheek, 5 vivid red finger marks had appeared. Half her face was swollen. She knew who Huang the fool was. Whenever she reached the alley after school, she would often run into that sneaky man. Every time, he would stare at her with lecherous eyes. His gaze never left her. That look terrified her. But she was afraid her mother would worry, so she never dared tell her. She could only endure it alone. Liu Ruyan glared at her viciously. I am doing this for your own good. In weather this cold, did you not nearly freeze to death outside? Mi Cai fell silent at those words, though she knew exactly what kind of person Liu Ruyan was. Those words were not entirely false. After her mother died, she had to find a way to survive on her own. But because of her age, only one restaurant would reluctantly hire her. For 2 days, she washed mountains of dishes. On the 3rd day, the owner threw her out. She had truly been driven to the end of the road. Before she started collecting bottles, thinking of this, she decided to play along with Liu Ruyan for now. It would not be too late to go back on her word after seeing her mother. Fine. I will go with Huang the fool. But you must take me to see my mother first. Seeing the girl finally given, a triumphant, scheming smile spread across Liu Ruyan's face. She released the girl's hair and rose from the floor. She dusted herself off. Would it not have been easier if you had done this from the start? Did you have to take a beating from me first? Stop talking nonsense. Take me to see my mother. Once her anger faded, the piercing pain in her face finally hit her. She raised a hand to cup her cheek, her voice trembling slightly. Shut up, you little bitch. I will call someone to come get you now. So, you can see that cursed mother of yours. Liu Ruyan pulled out her phone as she spoke, apparently sending someone a message. Then she slipped the phone into her pocket and went to the bathroom to rinse herself off. She paid no attention at all to the arm the girl had bitten. The little girl's face was swollen. The moment she heard she would soon see her mother, her heart gradually eased at last. That was why she had come to Liu Ruyan. From the very beginning, she never expected to get her mother's belongings back from Liu Ruyan. She was too weak now. She could not do it. Everything she did now was only to see her mother one last time. A few minutes later, the door was pushed open. A greasy, lecherous middle-aged man slipped inside, his presence seeming to pierce the air. The instant the girl saw his face, her body began trembling uncontrollably. All color drained from her face. Instinctively, she shrank back. When the man saw her, His eyes gleamed with delight and smug satisfaction. Even the corners of his mouth curled upward. Just then, Liu Ruyan leaned out of the bathroom. Her eyes flashed. She shot the man a cold glare. As she stepped out, she called Huang the Fool. Huang the Fool looked deeply reluctant, but still reached into his jacket. He pulled out a bulging envelope and handed it over. Judging by its thickness, it held at least 3,000 yuan. Before he could finish speaking, Liu Ruyan snatched the envelope away. The girl completely broke down. Her voice shook. Liu Ruyan, you promised me. You would let me see my mother first. Huang the Fool was utterly confused. He looked at Liu Ruyan, but Liu Ruyan charged at the girl. Her gaze vicious. She raised her hand high, poised to slap her. What are you yelling for? You little bitch, believe me, I will beat you to death. Huang the Fool's appearance drained away the last of her courage. She curled into a ball in the corner, murmuring, you clearly promised me. You cannot go back on your word. Only then did Huang the Fool begin to understand. He hurriedly reached out to stop Liu Ruyan. Frowning, he looked between them. She wants to see her mother. Why not just take her there? Liu Ruyan rolled her eyes, as if mocking an idiot. Then you take her. What if she starts screaming for help on the way? Can you handle that? Huang the Fool froze. His dull mind began turning. He thought it through from every angle, and decided Liu Ruyan had a point. The girl felt as though she had fallen into an abyss. Fear consumed her whole body. The last shred of hope in her heart was mercilessly torn apart. Her voice breaking with sobs, she cried, you lied. You said I could see my mother. Yet Huang the Fool began hesitating again. Uneasily, he muttered, taking her like this does not seem right. You promised to persuade her to come live with me. I gave you 5,000 yuan. Liu Ruyan snorted coldly. With utter disdain, she said, Huang the Fool, have you lost your mind? You are already in your 40s, and broke as can be. Did you really expect me to make her go with you willingly? If I had not kept her here, you would never lay a finger on her in your life. And this girl still dares bargain with me. Liu Ruyan had seen through Huang Erlengzi's weakness, but it gave Mi Cai no sense of safety. On the contrary, a thread of hope rose within the girl's despair. Choking back sobs, she pleaded, Uncle Huang, please let me go. I only want to see my mother. Sadly, she did not understand that Huang the Fool's hesitation came only from fear of responsibility. It had nothing to do with kindness. In other words, if he had not feared the consequences, he would have harmed her long ago. The girl's pleas earned no sympathy. Liu Ruyan gave a sinister smile. Her voice was cold as a hissing snake. This girl and her mother have lived here for over 3 years. They do not have a single relative or friend. No one cares what happens to them. Besides, it is winter break now. If she disappears, no one will notice easily. At that moment, Mi Cai plunged into bone-deep cold. Her whole body shook uncontrollably. It felt as if sharp needles were piercing her heart again and again. She knew all too well that everything Liu Ruyan said was true. The girl's ears began ringing. Pain drowned out every other sensation. Not even 2 days earlier, when she had nearly frozen to death in that alley, had she felt this desperate. Her back pressed against the icy wall. Warmth kept draining from her body. Her vision slowly blurred. Even breathing hurt. Sweat had already soaked through her underwear. Hunger churned her stomach as her body neared collapse. Then Spatula's figure suddenly appeared in her mind. The man who had stood up for her in the darkness. It was as if he offered her a beam of light at the end of the tunnel. Brother Spatula, she cried out inwardly. In an instant, a spark of hope ignited. She had promised that she would stay strong and live on. Remembering that, the girl gritted her teeth. It was as if she had been given one final burst of courage. Fighting through the pain, she stood up. She lunged toward the door. Only one thought remained in her mind. Get out and survive. But just as hope flickered to life, reality crushed it to pieces. Liu Ruyan, standing by the door, had already seen through her plan. She bolted the door first. Then she hurled the girl hard to the floor. You little animal. I knew you would try to run. That is why I said all that in front of you. You think you can take me on? You are way out of your league. Liu Ruyan gave a vicious grin. This time, Huang the Fool did not hesitate. He lunged at her, pinning her down with all his strength. Her final chance of escape was completely cut off. The girl was frantic. Struggling desperately, she screamed, Liu Ruyan, you are a monster. You will pay for this. But unexpectedly, the next second, Liu Ruyan grabbed a rag from the table and shoved it straight into her mouth. She would not let her say another word. Pay for it. I have lived half my life, and I have never seen any punishment. In this slum, I can beat you like a dog. No one will stop me, and no one will hold me accountable." Her cold laugh was full of arrogant defiance. She was about to slap her twice more, when Huang the fool hurriedly stopped her. He was terrified his future wife would be damaged. "Stop hitting her, stop. I will take her home and teach her the rules myself." Liu Ruyan clicked her tongue impatiently. She casually found a coil of rope and tossed it to him. Mi Cai struggled desperately. In her despair, only muffled sobs remained. She could not understand whether this disaster was her own fate or the consequence of her mother's sins. How could anyone be this cruel? All she wanted was to return to Penghu Lane and see her mother once. Yet she had fallen into a trap from which there was no escape. Regret nearly swallowed her whole. If she could choose again, perhaps she would have gone to an orphanage from the start. Maybe she would have avoided this terrible ordeal. If she had not promised Spatula, she would never hurt herself again. She would have wanted to smash her head against the floor. Liu Ruyan glanced out the window. "No one's around. Hurry and drag her back to your house." Huang the fool was completely swayed. Seeing this rare opportunity, he immediately joined Liu Ruyan and dragged the girl up from the floor. The alley was eerily quiet. Liu Ruyan and Huang the fool each held one of her arms. They dragged her deeper inside like a small animal. By the time they reached the end, Mi Cai's legs had already gone limp. She whimpered through the gag, tears streaming down her face. But she could not break free. Just as they neared the stairwell, a figure suddenly blocked their path. The man was still breathing hard. It was Spatula, who had been running everywhere to find her. After he rode back, he found no sign of Mi Cai at the alley entrance. Unwilling to give up, he had searched the buildings one by one. Luckily, heaven was watching over her. He came upon her just as they dragged her outside. "Where are you taking her?" Spatula's voice was low. His fists clenched tight. Rage surged inside him. Mi Cai heard that familiar voice and jerked her head up. She saw the face she had thought of countless times. "Brother Spatula," she cried out excitedly inside. But all she could make were muffled whimpers. She did not know why Spatula was here, but she knew in her heart that she was saved. That spark of hope lit up again. She struggled with every ounce of strength she had, trying to wrench herself free from them. Huang the simpleton froze for a moment. He stopped in his tracks. His slow mind had not caught up yet. But Liu Ruyan noticed at once that something was clearly off with Mi Cai. She immediately concluded the two knew each other. Though she felt slightly uneasy, she still glared viciously at Spatula. "Who are you?" she asked coldly. Only then did Spatula get a clear look at her. Her right cheek was badly swollen. A bright red handprint marked her face. Blood stained the corner of her mouth. Over the past 2 days, he had already grown attached to the little girl. Seeing her abused like this now, his fury naturally soared. He roared, "I am your damn worst nightmare. Get your filthy hands off her." The instant he finished speaking, Spatula charged at them. Huang the simpleton and Liu Ruyan jumped in fright. The hands gripping her arms loosened instinctively. Mi Cai broke free at once. She stumbled into Spatula's arms. He quickly crouched down. He tore the rag from her mouth and threw it aside. Then he carefully untied the ropes. They had been tied too tightly. The ropes had cut her wrist raw and bloody. The sight made his heart ache. "Brother Spatula, I am sorry." Now that she could speak, she could no longer contain her anguish. She buried herself against his shoulder and burst into tears. Spatula knew. She was apologizing to him for lying. He had been holding back some anger, planning to scold her a little. But seeing the little girl's face streaked with tears, his heart held nothing but pain for her. There was no room for any other emotion but that anger. Naturally turned toward these two people. Who had hurt her? If there had been a mirror here, Spatula would have seen how terrifying his eyes looked. Liu Ruyan's heart lurched beneath the force of his presence. Things had gone far beyond anything she expected. She had clearly heard the girl call him Brother Spatula. Even the way she addressed him was so intimate. They were probably family. But the mother and daughter had lived in this dump for so long, and Liu Ruyan had never heard that Mi Cai had a brother. Besides, the closeness between them did not look like that of distant relatives at all. Only then did Huang the simpleton catch on. He immediately began to lose his nerve. At the end of the day, no matter how twisted his intentions were, he was still a cowardly, pathetic man. He had only dared make a move because he believed the girl had no one to rely on. Otherwise, he would not have waited until her mother died before asking Liu Ruyan to match them up. "Tell your brother the truth. Who laid hands on you?" Suppressing his rage, Spatula gently patted the little girl's back to comfort her. He forced out the words through gritted teeth. It was that woman, Liu Ruyan. Mi Cai sobbed and pointed at Liu Ruyan. She's the landlord. She used to bully my mother and me. After my mother passed away that day, she had people drag her away and would not tell me where she was buried. She sold everything in our home these past few days. She even stole the gold ring my mother left me. Mi Cai had not wanted to drag Spatula into any of this, but hatred surged within her now, and she poured it all out. Today, I only wanted to see my mother one last time. Not only did she refuse to let me go, she tried to tie me up and sell me to Huang the simpleton as his wife. The more Spatula heard, the more horrified he became. This wretched slum was rotten to its core. If he had not rushed back, the consequences would have been unthinkable. He let every shred of rage in his chest blaze into flame, then forcibly crushed it into icy calm. He already knew what to do. When dealing with evil people, you had to be tougher than they were. Do not cry, Mi Cai. You held on until I got here. You were very brave. You are the strongest girl I have ever met. Spatula reached out and gently pinched her tear-soaked little cheek. Now that I am here, leave the rest to me. He rose beneath the little girl's almost disbelieving gaze. His face darkened as he stared at the culprit. You little bitch, I will rip that mouth of yours apart. Seeing that the girl who had always meekly endured everything had exposed all her ugly deeds, Liu Ruyan's blood rushed to her head. All reason fled. She lunged forward with a twisted expression, raising her hand to claw at Mi Cai's face. She had completely forgotten Spatula was beside her. Spatula merely gave a cold smile. He was not afraid of a few thugs, much less some slumlord. He pulled Mi Cai behind him protectively. His left hand shot forward, firmly seizing Liu Ruyan's outstretched right wrist. Her hand hung suspended in midair, unable to move another inch. Smack, a resounding slap, landed across Liu Ruyan's left cheek. That was for slapping my little sister. It was probably the hardest blow Liu Ruyan had taken since the day she was born. Stars burst across her vision. The world spun, and she nearly collapsed. The slap split the flesh on her face. Blood seeped from the wound. When she came to herself, she spat out a mouthful of blood. He had even knocked out one of her teeth. Liu Ruyan's face turned a deep purplish red. She trembled all over with rage. She had terrorized Penghu Alley for years. No one had ever dared touch a hair on her head, let alone slap her across the face like this. But before she could explode, Spatula's cold voice bore down on her again. This is the hand that slapped my sister, right? He gripped the middle finger of her right hand, the one wearing the gold ring, and bent it sharply without changing expression. A soft crack sounded. Liu Ruyan's right middle finger immediately bent the wrong way. He had dislocated it by force. Her scream exploded through the hallway. No longer caring about her face, swollen like a bun, she fought with all her strength to pull her hand from his grip. But Spatula remained expressionless. He did not care in the slightest whether she lived or died. He forcibly tore the gold ring off her dislocated finger. Liu Ruyan cried out in agony again and again. Those sudden screams drew several households out to peek from their doors. But once they saw Liu Ruyan was the one suffering, they quietly shut their doors, pretending they had seen nothing. You like hitting children, do you? You like trafficking girls, do you? Let us see if you have any hands left for this filthy business. Spatula casually slipped the gold ring into his pocket. His voice was low and icy. Huang the simpleton, what the hell are you standing there for? Get over here. Liu Ruyan struggled with all her strength, but she could not break free from Spatula's grip. She could only turn and shout at Huang the simpleton, who stood there dumbfounded. Huang the simpleton was completely stunned. He had not expected Spatula to be so ruthless. He had gone straight for the kill. His already slow mind completely froze on the spot. Liu Ruyan got no help. She turned back to glare at Spatula, her face dark and vicious. Spatula, is it? Just you wait. I will have someone kill you. Spatula laughed instead. He let go of her. His kindness did not mean he was soft-hearted, and it certainly did not mean he was a coward. On the contrary, his kindness sprang from a righteous backbone that despised evil. When he turned ruthless, he was more terrifying than anyone. With nothing supporting her, Liu Ruyan dropped hard onto the ground. Before she could decide what to do next, Spatula's even colder voice rang beside her ear. You want me to wait? Fine. But whoever you bring had better be as tough as you claim. They had better kill me. Spatula crouched down, looking down into her eyes. Because if they fail to kill me, I will pay you back tenfold. I will throw you into a filthy ditch and feed you to the rats. When Spatula makes a promise, he keeps it. Feel free to test me. You lunatic. Believe it or not, I will call the police right now. Liu Ruyan sat sprawled on the ground. Her earlier arrogance was long gone. She only made empty threats. Trembling, she raised her injured right hand, pushing against the ground with both feet. As she kept backing away, she only wanted to get farther from this madman. Ha ha ha. Call the police? Liu Ruyan had actually made Spatula laugh. He had not even mentioned calling the police. Yet these two human traffickers were in a hurry to do it first. Had the beating rattled their brains? Since you want to call the police, shall I do it for you? I happen to have a friend at the city police department. Cases involving the misappropriation of other people's property and human trafficking are exactly what interest him. As he spoke, Spatula pulled out his phone. Right before her, he started dialing. He even held the screen before Liu Ruyan's eyes. Liu Ruyan was scared out of her wits. Ignoring the pain in her finger, she hurriedly snatched the phone away and hung up with a sharp tap. She was no fool. In fact, she was quite shrewd. She knew exactly how many shady things she had done over the years. She knew it all too well. If the police truly got involved, she would be in serious trouble. Regret flooded over her like a tide. Never had she regretted anything so deeply. Why had she provoked that girl? And why had she crossed this complete madman? Spatula looked at the terrified Liu Ruyan and spoke in a low voice. He truly had not planned to call the police just yet. If he called now, the nearby precinct would most likely respond. He did not trust the way they handled matters. This needed to go to the city police department. Besides, though he had stopped the crime, he had hit them hard. He would inevitably be called in for questioning. It would be best to let Feng Yuan handle it. That would save him from taking the girl around to give statements. He trusted Feng Yuan to settle everything. These two bullies needed to spend several years behind bars. For now, he would let them go home and heal. Once healed, they could go to prison. Of course, Liu Ruyan had no idea what he was planning. If she had known, she would have been furious enough to cough up blood. Trembling, she handed the phone back to Spatula. She did not even dare look at him. Meanwhile, Mi Cai, hiding behind Spatula, had stopped crying. She covered her little mouth in surprise. Her eyes were filled with bewilderment. She never expected gentle brother Spatula to have such a terrifying side. As if noticing her reaction, Spatula freed one hand and gently ruffled her little head. Then he stared at Liu Ruyan, sitting on the ground. He said, "You're Liu Ruyan, right? I heard you buried her mother, but refused to tell the child where. Is that right?" Spatula shot Liu Ruyan a sidelong glance. His meaning could not have been clearer. No, that is not true. She is buried on the hill behind Penghu Alley. It is very close. I will take you there right now. Liu Ruyan was scared senseless. She hurriedly offered to lead them there at once. Though she felt humiliated, she had no other choice. Right now, she only wanted to get this menace away from her. The slanting afternoon sun fell across them, making Spatula feel pleasantly warm. He held onto Mi Cai's sleeve, and the little girl followed lightly at his side. Only moments ago, she had felt as if she had fallen into hell. Now, her whole body felt much lighter. It was as if, with Brother Spatula beside her, she had nothing left to fear. Liu Ruyan led them through the alley. Soon, they reached the hill behind Penghu Alley. Following a narrow path, they walked uphill for several minutes, until they came to a relatively flat clearing. There were not many trees there, and the weeds were sparse. A patch of bare earth lay exposed. Several earthen mounds stood out starkly. Liu Ruyan noticed Spatula's confusion, and hurriedly explained. In our shantytown, when tenants with no one left to care for them die, they are buried here. Spatula said nothing, only frowned. Behind him, Mi Cai looked anxiously in every direction, desperate to find her mother's grave. Liu Ruyan shuffled forward a few steps. She stopped before a grave mound at the very edge. The mound looked freshly made. The exposed soil had not yet settled. A simple stone marker stood before it. It read, "Tomb of Mi Li." Aside from that, nothing else identified the person buried there. If this woman had not felt guilty and feared retribution, she probably would not even have erected a marker. Spatula sighed. He gently took Mi Cai's small hand and led her to the grave. The moment the little girl stood before her mother, her eyes grew moist again. Thankfully, she did not lose control as she had before. With the tip of her shoe, she scraped the debris away from the grave. She did not say a word. She simply knelt down. Her grief was like spilled ink, slowly bleeding through the small patch of earth. Watching this, Spatula turned toward Liu Ruyan. His voice was icy cold. "Liu Ruyan, you can get lost now. From now on, stay tucked away in your shack. Do not let me see you again. Yes, yes, yes. Hearing that Spatula would let her leave, Liu Ruyan felt a crushing weight lift from her shoulders. Even so, she trembled now and then as she left, afraid he would go mad again. He was the kind of man who could break her finger without changing expression. Though his words were barbed now, they felt like a warm breeze to her. Just as Liu Ruyan was walking away, nearing the edge of the clearing, Spatula's cold voice reached her ears again. Her whole body stiffened. She did not dare move. How did your finger get injured? Hearing Spatula's question, though he clearly knew the answer, humiliation surged straight to her head. He was clearly rubbing her face in it. But she was shrewd. She knew exactly what answer he wanted. Liu Ruyan swallowed hard and stammered, I fell while walking. She knew full well that even without Spatula's warning, that was the only story she could tell outside. If word got out that someone had slapped her, how could she keep throwing her weight around in Shantytown Alley? How could she face the elderly, weak, sick, and disabled people she had exploited? Seeing Liu Ruyan knew how to play along, Spatula gave a quiet snort and stopped pressing her. He knew that a cornered dog will bite. After all, this was her turf. If he pushed her too hard, it would not be worth getting stabbed in retaliation. Next, he only needed to go back and tell Feng Yuan to act. This time, Liu Ruyan did not linger for even half a second. With a dark expression, she clutched her injured right hand, her heels clicking, and quickly vanished from Spatula's sight. As she walked away, only Spatula and Mi Cai remained in the clearing. Brother Spatula, thank you. You saved me again. I truly do not know how to repay you. The girl still knelt before her mother's grave. She did not rise. With her head lowered, she spoke softly, her voice thick with tears. All right, Mi Cai. Stop thanking me. You know that is just who I am. Once he was alone with the girl, his voice became gentle again. There is just one thing I do not understand. Spatula stopped halfway through. He wanted to ask why she had lied, but worried he would hurt the little girl's pride. Ask whatever you want. Brother Spatula, I will not lie to you again. She did not look up, still kneeling before the grave. She answered quietly. At this point, she could no longer keep hiding the truth. You clearly had nowhere to go. Why did you not tell me directly? Why make up an uncle to fool me and put yourself in such danger? Seeing that she was willing to talk, Spatula asked what had troubled him most. Faced with his question, she fell silent for a moment. She knew she had to face this. Then she wiped the tears from her eyes, looked up at Spatula, and forced a small smile. Because you have been far too good to me, Brother Spatula. Her answer caught Spatula off guard. He was confused, and his heart ached. I am only a girl from Shantytown Alley, with no family, and nothing to my name. You should have your own life, Brother Spatula. You should not have to keep being burdened by me. In truth, this reason was something Spatula had vaguely guessed in the taxi. Just as he could understand her, she could understand him too. But hearing her say it herself still shook him. This little girl truly was as he had thought. She cared for others from the bottom of her heart. But you promised me that you would be happy from now on. How can I stop worrying when you are like this? Spatula gently tapped her forehead with his knuckle. He understood her feelings, but he was still unhappy with what she had done. I have already figured out what I will do next. I really only came back to pack a few things and see my mother one last time. She thought for a moment before answering seriously. Then what did you originally plan to do? You have no family left and no money for rent. You have nowhere to go, do you? Spatula gave her a doubtful glance. Besides, you are still in school. Even a simple job would not be easy to find, right? Do not tell me you plan to go to a welfare home. Spatula suddenly stopped speaking. He thought of that place and forcibly swallowed the words. That place was meant only for true orphans. But on second thought, she really was no different from an orphan now. Her father had abandoned her when she was very young, and now her mother was gone too. If that did not make her an orphan, what did? Yes, Brother Spatula, I plan to go to the welfare home. She raised her head and quietly looked into Spatula's eyes. She knew this might make him angry, but she did not want to lie anymore. So, she told him what was in her heart. I am in my second year of the lower division at Tingzhou University. I only have a little over a year left. I will finish the lower division at the welfare home, then find a job. Spatula was almost speechless. Why did this little girl bring up finding work every other sentence? Was she really that determined to work? But you have not even finished university. What job could you find? Why are you always thinking about work? Can you not just finish your studies properly? Her fixation on finding work as soon as possible was something he could not understand. Mi Cai, your grades are so good. Would you not be throwing away your future? How can you drop out? Spatula was getting upset. He held her shoulders with both hands, wanting to shake some sense into that stubborn little head. Seeing that he was truly anxious, the girl silently lowered her head again and fell quiet. As she quieted down, Spatula gradually calmed down too. Yes, what else could she do? She had nowhere to call home. The welfare home really was her only way out. Besides, she was too kind-hearted to want to trouble him. Even if she went to the welfare home, she still did not want to burden him. And out in the world, meeting someone like him had already been a great stroke of luck for her. But would she always meet good people like him? What she had endured these past few days proved that going there might be the safest choice. Even if she might have to drop out or face other hardships, at least she would survive. At that thought, Spatula could not help sighing. Actually, he had considered taking her in as his little sister and bringing her straight home. But if he did that, there was far too much to consider. Could I handle it? At first, he thought she was not completely homeless, that she still had somewhere to go. That was why, when Mi Cai said she had an uncle, he did not think much of it and believed her without question. But things had come to this, and Spatula had to make a choice. Either take her home, or let her go to the welfare home. Thinking of this, Spatula could only laugh bitterly to himself. Why do I always go looking for trouble? If I am not getting into trouble, I am on my way to it. As if she sensed that Spatula had been silent too long, the little girl gently tugged at his sleeve again. Her voice was still soft. Brother Spatula, please stop worrying about me. It is getting late. You should go home. Just let me go to the welfare home. Do not worry. I promised you I would do my best to be happy. Then happiness will come. Yes, I had said I wanted her to be happy. The chance was right in front of me. Why would I not keep her with me? It was my hesitation that nearly sent Mi Cai back into the abyss. If I had not gotten back in time, what kind of hellish life would she have lived afterward? I do not even dare think about it. If I let her go to the welfare home like this, who could guarantee that nothing else would go wrong? To hell with these worries. They can all get the hell out of here. First, I will take Mi Cai home. I am a grown man. There is no problem I cannot solve. That surge of determination once again overcame the fear in my mind. I knew perfectly well that no matter what happened next, I would not regret it. Little one, I crouched before you and gently took both your little hands. You look puzzled, blinking up at me with a trace of confusion. Here is the thing. I have lived alone. Ever since graduating, I often feel lonely, and I am terrible at taking care of myself. I have thought for a long time how nice it would be to have a little sister with me. She would not only keep me company and make my life feel more like a home. So, would you move into my home and live with your brother? Hearing me offer it, Mi Cai's little mouth fell open in surprise. She froze completely, her face full of disbelief. Yes, of course I would. Her miserable childhood and the hardships of recent days had made her dream of having a home, a place where she could shelter from the storm, a family member who would think of her and protect her. To Mi Cai, Spatula was like the sun in the sky, so dazzling and warm. He was kind and thoughtful, always patient and gentle with her. When it truly mattered, he made her feel utterly safe, like an unshakable mountain. He always stood in front of her. A brother like that had long been etched into Mi Cai's heart and made her grow attached to him without even realizing it. But a little girl with nothing like me. Do I really deserve such kindness? Can I really keep intruding on Brother Spatula's life? No, I cannot. But, Brother Spatula, I truly do not want to burden you anymore. Before she could finish, Spatula interrupted Mi Cai. I looked into the girl's shining eyes and gently pressed my index finger to her lips, stopping her from saying another word. Come on, get up. Spatula bent down and helped her up from the ground. He guided her to steps forward until they stood before Mi Li's grave. Spatula stood beside Mi Cai, quietly gazing with her at her mother's headstone. After a long while, Spatula finally made up his mind. His expression became steady. Mi Li, although I never had the chance to meet you, I solemnly swear here today that I will treat Mi Cai as my own little sister. As long as I am here, wherever she is, that place will be her home. So, Mi Cai, will you accept me as your brother? and come home with me. Mi Cai raised her head. Her expression shifted from shock to stunned silence, then slowly into deep emotion. Her eyes filled with tears again. Mi Cai smiled at the boy, opening her mouth. But for a moment, she could not speak. Do you really mean it? After a long pause, she lifted a hand to wipe the tears from her eyes, trying hard to steady herself. Then she smiled like a little angel and called out brightly, "Brother." This time, she did not put Spatula's name before it. She used the intimate name reserved for family. At last, she had given him her clearest answer. Seeing this, Spatula could not help smiling. He gently pressed his forehead to her little head. The little girl did not pull away, quietly savoring the closeness. "Brother, can I cry now?" Her eyes were red, as though she could no longer hold back, the tears about to spill over. "What is it? Are you not happy?" Spatula watched her and asked with concern. At the same time, he gave a gentle nod. "Because right now, The slanting sunset poured across her face. Fine tears ran down her cheeks, even as a radiant smile bloomed. "I am so happy." Spatula's nose stung, and his own eyes grew damp. For an instant, it was like yesterday again, that silent moment beside the hospital bed. At last, it had received an answer. The hope he had sent out had finally come full circle back to him. Spatula did not keep her in that sorrowful place any longer. He led her away, following the little path back the way they had come. "Brother, where are we going now?" "Home, of course." "To your home, brother." "No, to our home." When they returned to the entrance of the apartment complex, dusk was drawing near, so his little sister could settle in comfortably at home. Spatula took her into the supermarket by the entrance. He bought the little girl every daily necessity she needed. Besides that, Spatula bought plenty of vegetables, fruit, and meat for meals over the next few days. He simply gave up on saving money this month. After all, he still had to find time to buy the little girl some decent clothes. That would cost at least another 2,000 yuan. Still, he knew that once the little one was settled, the extra expenses would gradually go down. By the time they carried all their bags home, they were both breathing hard from exhaustion. Mi Cai stood at the door and set what she was carrying on the floor. But the moment she stepped into the unfamiliar place, she looked a little timid. "Come on in." Spatula turned on the lights, pulled out the new slippers from a bag, and handed them to her, gesturing for her to put them on. She carefully slipped the pink fuzzy slippers onto her feet and walked inside. Her little hands hung awkwardly at her sides. She wanted to sit on the sofa, but then remembered that she had worn these clothes for days. She had collected bottles in them, worn them to the hospital, and had just been dragged across the ground in Penghu Alley. Afraid of dirtying the sofa, she could only stand still in the living room. "Why are you still standing there? Sit wherever you like. This is your home." Spatula switched on the underfloor heating and called to the little girl still standing there. "On the way here, did you not promise me you would relax once we got home? But I have worn these clothes for a long time. A few days ago, I was wearing these when I got them dirty collecting bottles outside. I even wore them into the hospital. Then they dragged me across the ground in Penghu Alley." She lowered her head, rubbing her little hands together, as she explained uneasily. Only then did Spatula remember what had just happened. He bent down and carefully examined her little face. The finger marks where she had been struck had not faded completely. "Does it still hurt?" He could not help asking with concern, his heart twisting painfully again. Mi Cai paused, then realized he meant her face. She forced out a smile. "It does not hurt anymore. I am fine, brother." Spatula's face plainly said he did not believe her. He gently tapped the tip of her little nose, looking slightly displeased. "Still trying to act tough, are you? I do not believe you." Seeing she still would not sit on the sofa, he could only lead her into the bathroom. "Then take a bath first. Use the bathtub however you like. When you are done, brother will put some aloe gel on your face. I will put everything away and make dinner. I will make you something delicious tonight." "Okay, thank you, brother." She gave him a sweet smile. Spatula could not help patting her head again. He switched on the bathroom heater, then turned to put things away and start cooking. The first time she entered the bathroom in her new home, Mi Cai was a little stunned. She had never expected there would be something like a bathtub in the house. When she had lived with her mother, they had not even had their own bathroom. Her mother would usually only take her to the bathhouse once every 2 weeks. Later, when her mother became seriously ill, baths became even rarer. Most of the time, She could only wipe herself down at home with a damp towel and wash her hair with water from a basin. A proper hot bath was little more than a dream. So, when she saw the tiled bathroom with its bathtub, she stood there in a daze. Fortunately, the little girl was quick to learn. She quickly learned how to run hot water from the faucet above the tub and adjust it to the right temperature. She took off her clothes, then folded her grimy school uniform, sweater, and underwear neatly, one piece at a time, and placed them on the bathroom floor. Then she quietly stood beside the bathtub and waited. The underfloor heating and bathroom heater were both on. The bathroom was not cold at all. Every now and then, she blinked, watching the hot water rise higher in the tub. A few minutes passed like that. The tub was nearly half full. Unable to contain her delight, she carefully climbed into the bathtub and began to bathe. The moment her whole body sank into the hot water, she felt as if her soul might soar away. She had nearly forgotten when she had last taken a bath. This complete relaxation felt like a dream. Then she spotted the body wash on the shelf. Excitedly, she squeezed a little into the tub, covering the water's surface in bubbles, and happily played in them. Her difficult circumstances in the past had forced her to hide behind a tough exterior. Now, she finally had someone to rely on. For the first time, she truly felt the deep security of being supported by family. It was so wonderful. Tired from playing, she reclined halfway in the tub. Her little eyes narrowed, watching bubbles gather like a flower on her fingertips. She was utterly content. Before, she had lived under constant pressure every day. She had never felt this relaxed. It all felt intensely unreal to her. She gently pinched her little cheek, wanting to make sure this was not a dream. But moments later, she suddenly sat upright in the tub. She suddenly realized she seemed to be missing something. She had forgotten a towel. Oh no. Meanwhile, Spatula was busy in the kitchen. Everything from the supermarket had been put away, and he had started cooking. Wearing an apron, with a spatula in one hand, he deftly stir-fried in the wok. The range hood hummed overhead. He looked like a capable stay-at-home dad. When it came to cooking, Spatula was quite skilled. It was just that he usually lived alone, so he rarely cooked seriously. Most of the time, he took the easiest route to fill his stomach, like fried rice with egg or noodles. Unless he had time on the weekend, or got off work early, he would make himself a couple of proper dishes. By now, he had already finished one dish, and the rice cooker was bubbling away. With a little one now in the house, he felt a little excited too, and worked especially hard. But just as he set the first dish on the table, the little girl's voice suddenly called from the bathroom. "Brother, what is it?" Spatula put down what he was doing and hurried to the bathroom door. He asked through it. Her slightly stammering voice came from inside. "Brother, I think I forgot to bring a towel." Spatula rubbed his forehead, then found the new bath towel they had bought that afternoon. "I will hang it on the doorknob. Just reach out and take it." "Brother, come in. It is okay. I am in the bathtub." Her wet hair clung to her shoulders as she spoke softly, a little embarrassed. "In the bathtub?" Spatula was slightly confused, but he still did as she asked, taking the towel and pushing open the bathroom door. The moment he entered, he saw the scene before him. He suddenly understood. The little girl had filled the bathtub with foam. Her whole body was tucked beneath the water, with only her adorable little head peeking out among the bubbles, with steam rising around her. Apart from that little head, nothing else could be seen. "Oh!" Spatula almost burst out laughing. He set the towel on the rack and stepped back out. Her. She felt a little embarrassed too, and gave a silly little smile. After that, Spatula went back to the kitchen to continue cooking. Tonight, he planned to make 3 dishes and a soup. It was the little one's first day in his home, so he had to prepare something proper for her. He first made garlic shrimp with vermicelli, then prepared to stir-fry cauliflower, finishing with meatball soup and cucumber salad. But when he brought the meatball soup to the table, he happened to see the little girl wrapped in a bath towel, creeping out of the bathroom in small, furtive steps. Their eyes met. Her face instantly flushed scarlet. She dodged his gaze, too embarrassed to get her words out properly. "Ah, brother, I am sorry. I think I forgot my clothes too." Only then did Spatula remember that he had only brought her a towel earlier. He had not brought out her clothes. He pointed to the underwear on the sofa and the loungewear beside it. The little girl hurried over, scooped them up, and ran back into the bathroom. Before she went, she could not help sticking out her tongue. It made Spatula laugh. Soon, she emerged, dressed. As she walked, she vigorously rubbed her dripping long hair with the towel. Seeing this, Spatula quickly waved her to stop. You are drying it like that. You will damage your hair. She stopped, looking at him in confusion. Have you never used a hair dryer before? A long time ago. Before we moved to Penghu Lane, Mom used to dry it for me. But not after that. I do not really know how to do it myself. She answered softly. You silly thing. I will help you. If you rub it like that, your hair will tangle easily. Spatula set down his work again and led her back into the bathroom. He brought over a chair, then sat down to blow-dry her hair. The moment the hair dryer came on, the rushing air and heat made her slightly tense. With her back to him, she stood quietly, her fingers twisting uneasily together. But her trust in Brother soon soothed that unease. Along with Spatula's practiced touch, he patiently gathered one lock of her long hair after another, moving the dryer gently up and down. He also checked the temperature with the back of his hand, so the hot air would not burn her little head. How is it? Feels nice, right? He asked as he dried her hair. She gave a soft hum of agreement, her voice barely louder than a whisper. The hair dryer's warm air and Brother's gentle hands moved back and forth through her hair. An indescribable feeling welled up inside her. Tell me if anything feels uncomfortable. Spatula noticed that she was a little stiff and found it strange, but did not dwell on it. He patiently continued until her hair was dry. He assumed she was still new here and did not want to trouble him. Once you are done bathing, Brother will put some aloe gel on your face. I will put the groceries away and make dinner while I am at it. I will make you something delicious tonight. Thank you, Brother. She gave him a sweet smile. Spatula patted her head again, turned on the bathroom heater, and turned to get back to work. Only after her hair was completely dry did the little girl turn around. She stood properly before Spatula. Her freshly washed little face was rosy. Her silky long hair fell over her shoulders, carrying the faint scent of jasmine shampoo. Compared with the girl in the old-school uniform from before, thin and a little grimy, she looked a completely different person now. Though she wore slightly bulky loungewear, she was still lively and adorable. It looks like it fits well. Spatula looked her over, then nodded in satisfaction. Then he searched through the first aid kit for a while and took out the aloe gel. He carefully applied it to her injured left cheek. Now that they were so close, besides the fragrance in her hair, he could even smell the faint, sweet, clean scent of her skin. After that, he acted as though nothing had happened and led the little girl back to the living room. He had her sit at the dining table. When she saw the steaming garlic shrimp with vermicelli on the table, the stir-fried cauliflower, and the meatball soup, her heart tightened slightly. Brother, is someone coming over tonight? No, it is just the two of us. When Spatula heard her ask that, he was amused but puzzled. That is good. Only after hearing no, did she breathe a sigh of relief. She was still shy around strangers in this unfamiliar home. Other than her brother Spatula, she did not want to see anyone else for now. But the two of us cannot finish all this, can we? So that was it. Spatula finally understood her concern and explained with a smile. Today is your first day here, so of course I had to make you something nice. Besides, it is not that much. I still have not brought out the cucumber salad. Hearing that he wanted to make another dish, she wanted to refuse, but seeing his eager face, she ultimately did not stop him. But after she insisted several times, she finally followed Spatula into the kitchen. The little girl was clearly very capable at housework. She usually cared for her seriously ill mother and handled most of the meals. So, even though it was her first time in Spatula's kitchen, the two worked together seamlessly. Spatula prepared the dressing. When he turned around, Mi Cai had already neatly placed the cucumber on the cutting board and sliced it into thin strips. Yet even so, she kept her head lowered, her mood suddenly turning low. Brother, you lied. You clearly know how to take very good care of yourself. The corner of Spatula's mouth lifted, so the little girl had taken issue with what he said earlier. That brother could never take care of himself. She was holding him to it. As he mixed the shredded cucumber in the bowl, he said with a smile, "Oh, come on. Keeping each other company is care in itself. Besides, I cannot actually have you come here to be my little maid. But if you can do everything, what can I even help you with?" She had thought. Brother was just as he had said. Someone who could only go to work and earn money, who could not manage his own daily life, and needed someone to look after him. That was why she had wanted to come live with Spatula, to take care of his daily needs every day. After all, housework was what she did best. She had always been the one caring for her sick mother, Other than cooking, she could handle nearly every household task. It was only because her family had been too poor before, with too few ingredients, that she knew only a few dishes. Now, she discovered that spatula was just as skilled at housework, and even better at cooking than she was. She could not help feeling a little threatened. See, the moment you came, brother finally started cooking proper meals. When I was alone before, I would just eat whatever was convenient. I could not even be bothered to tidy the house. I lived like a slob. So now that you are here, you have made my life so much better. Seeing that she still had her head down, Spatula kept patiently explaining. However, his little sister clearly was not convinced. Spatula could only sigh. After a great deal of effort, he finally settled on a small arrangement with her. Before school started, she would handle most of the housework. Once school began, they would split some of it between them. As for cooking, she would help Spatula out, while learning some new recipes. Only then did the little girl's mood gradually improve. But once Spatula served the rice, and the two sat down at the table, she still seemed very reserved. She was holding her chopsticks, yet she would not pick up any food. A meal with 3 dishes and a soup was far too lavish for her. Spatula noticed her discomfort, so he placed several pieces of shrimp in her bowl. Then he urged her to eat. Only then did she slowly lift her chopsticks. She first took a bite of rice, then carefully put the shrimp from her bowl into her mouth. She moved as cautiously as a child being scolded for doing something wrong. What did you usually eat before? Spatula took a mouthful of rice, asking casually to ease the tension. In the morning, usually steamed buns or vegetable buns. At noon, sometimes stir-fried vegetables with rice. If I did not cook, I ate rice with Lao Gen Ma chili sauce. If I was hungry at night, I made plain noodles. If not, I did not eat. The little girl nearly buried her face in her bowl, answering in a tiny voice. A suffocating pain rose in him. Spatula finally understood why she was malnourished, and why, at her age, she was still as small as a child. From what she said, when she was young, let alone milk and calcium supplements, she probably rarely even had basic protein like meat and eggs. She hardly ever got to eat them. Thinking of that, he put several more pieces of shrimp into her bowl. He told her to eat more, then deliberately made a little joke to help her relax. He said that while she could still grow taller, she needed to eat up and get more nutrients. Otherwise, she would stay barely 4 feet 8 inches tall, and her classmates would laugh their heads off, hearing brother's merciless teasing. The little girl furrowed her pretty brows and shot Spatula a wounded glare. It made him keep grinning mischievously. As soon as dinner was over, she rushed ahead, carrying the dishes and chopsticks into the kitchen to wash them. She also packed up the leftovers and put them in the refrigerator. Spatula could only spread his hands helplessly, but he did not stop her. He knew she needed to do some housework now, to feel that she had a place in this home. Otherwise, given her nature, she might start wiping away tears again before long. Spatula took her to see the room he had set aside for her. Spatula's apartment had 3 bedrooms, a living room, and the bathrooms. One of the bathrooms had been converted into a spacious bathroom. The 3 rooms were 2 bedrooms and a study. He used the master bedroom, while the second bedroom was for Mi Cai. It had a bed, a wardrobe, and a desk. Seeing her clean, tidy new room, the little girl could barely contain her joy. Spatula helped her straighten up the bedroom, spreading the new sheets on the bed. They also put fresh covers on the pillows and quilt. Once they were finished, the little girl looked at the made-up bed and could not resist diving onto it. Hugging the quilt, she rolled back and forth. She instantly forgot Spatula was standing beside her. After rolling around twice, she finally came back to herself. A little embarrassed, she gave him a sheepish grin. Seeing that she was no longer crying as she had during the day, he finally began to relax. What he had feared most before was that her hard past had left her scarred, and she would not be able to adjust to her new home and life. But now, her reserve was slowly fading, and each day she seemed brighter and more cheerful. That made him happy too. After all, Spatula had brought her home. Wasn't seeing her smile why he had her home? He wanted her to feel safe and happy here. All right, little girl. It is getting late. I have work tomorrow morning. Get some sleep early. I am going to bed too. If you need the bathroom, use the big one, or the one in my bedroom. Either is fine. She nodded like a little chick pecking at grain, but just as Spatula was about to leave, she called out to him. What is it? He replied, turning around. Could you give me a notebook? I usually keep a diary. Liu Ruyan threw away my old diary. she said softly. She looked especially timid. It was the first time she had asked Spatula for something, which was why she seemed so nervous. Spatula nodded. He had not expected her to keep a diary. He went to search the study and found a brand new notebook and several pens. He returned and placed them in her hands. The little girl took the new notebook and could not put it down. She immediately jumped off the bed, sat at the desk, and started writing. Spatula gently pulled the door shut and left her room, not lingering to disturb her. Spatula went back to the bathroom and took a quick hot shower. Then he organized what he would need for work tomorrow and went to bed. The following days passed peacefully. During the day, Spatula was busy at work. Mi Cai managed the house at home, read, and studied as she waited for school to begin. Before long, his promotion was confirmed. The raise finally let him breathe easier. At least supporting his sister would no longer be such a struggle. On Saturday, he took Mi Cai shopping for several new outfits. He also got her a phone so they could stay in touch. The little girl insisted on choosing the cheapest model. Spatula could not talk her out of it, but he planned to get her a better one someday. There was progress on Feng Yuan's end as well. Liu Ruyan and Huang Erlengzi had been taken into custody, and the investigation was continuing. When Mi Cai learned of it, she stood silently before her mother's grave for a long time. Then she softly said to Spatula, "Brother, Mom will surely rest easy." The night before school began, she wrote in her diary, "Brother bought me a new backpack today. He told me to study hard and get into a good university. I will, because I do not want to disappoint him or make him worry. Brother Spatula, thank you for giving me a home." After finishing her diary, she went to Spatula's door and softly knocked twice. "Brother, are you asleep?" Spatula opened the door and saw her standing outside, hugging a pillow. Her eyes were shining. "What is it, Mi Cai? I cannot sleep. Can you talk with me for a while?" Spatula stepped aside to let her in. They sat side by side on the edge of the bed. In a tiny voice, she said, "Brother, I am a little scared to go back to school tomorrow." Spatula gently stroked her head. "Do not be afraid. I am here for you. No one will dare bully you." She nodded gently and rested her head on his shoulder. "Brother, will you always stay with me?" Spatula gazed into the night beyond the window. His voice was certain. "I will, until the day you no longer need me. Though, I do not think that day will ever come, because I am your brother." She laughed, but tears silently slipped down her cheeks. "You will always be my brother." Early the next morning, Spatula took her to school. At the school gates, she turned and waved to him. In the sunlight, her smile was bright and pure. Spatula watched her walk into the school. As he turned to leave, a text message came through on his phone. "Brother, I will do my best." It was from Mi Cai. Spatula looked at the screen and smiled. He replied, "I'll make you red braised pork tonight." At this point, the story was not truly over. Life was still moving forward. At least, after this bitter winter, a girl had found her home, and a man had gained a little sister. Their chapter